All right, guys. Good morning, good evening, good night. Happy Monday. Happy trading. I think I just took Dimitri's saying there. Everybody's ready. I got my crypto kitty ready. My dog, my Shep over here is ready. Hope you guys are ready for this awesome episode we're about to have. We appreciate you guys showing up. Looks like we got 12 in the chat, so thank you for showing up early. We got a bunch of lads in there.
All right, guys.
Lads have been completely killing it this past week. But what's going on, Demo? What's happening today?
Not much. I mean, there's so much going on in crypto that it has no chill, right? We have so many stories, so many things are coming out, and makes it exciting. And also on the weather front, the weather is getting pretty good here in Pittsburgh. So a little bit of a cool weather here.
Yeah, that'll last for a week.
I know, right? Yeah, before it starts to go into some rainy stuff. But Q, before we started, I mentioned, can you show everybody your cup of coffee? Because you mentioned that, it keeps getting bigger and bigger each episode.
Guys, as we go more bull, we're going to have to get more and more coffee. Because I was up early this morning getting into BakerySwap, a AMM on the Binance chain. We can talk a little bit about that later. Binance is making some moves, man. CZ's killing it this past week, this past month, I don't know, I wouldn't give him a year. He's still kind of having some of that go on. But anyways, guys, ton of news this week. I'm going to go ahead and kind of break down the overview before we get into it. We got that BzX Exploit. Obviously, we're going to hit that in breaking. Some Tron DeFi news. We've got DOT making their first InterChain asset transfer. That's pretty big for them. I know parachains are all the rage on that protocol there. We've got some quick news to hit. We'll touch on some things. We're going to talk ChefNomi. Can't have an episode without sushi this week. We got EOS. We're going to break down that Everything EOS interview with Zach Gall and Cheney Moore. They interviewed Dan Larimer. That was an awesome discussion. It looks like some breaking news in EOS, man. So it looks like we just had a new AMM pop up from the guys behind the diamond mining craze. It looks like they're launching Dolphin Swap. So it looks like that was kind of just breaking news there. We'll drop that in lads here as we're live. But then we're going to hit Binance. We got some stuff to get to there. They've got a dev grant, DeFi NFTs. Big episode. So
yeah, man.
Yeah. So what? So yeah. Go ahead.
I'm super excited about obviously the DeFi stuff. It's interesting to see what's playing out right now, and post that episode that I did with Stanny and Kane. It was interesting to hear their thoughts about where the sector is right now, and we're starting to see that kind of play out. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. There's a bunch of people copying our idea now, guys. I know we were the ones that invented duo episodes, and now you see 4, 5, 6 people on an episode. They're trying to do the exact same thing Layer1's here doing. So we're innovating, guys. We're innovating.
Yep.
So I'm going to give a couple shout outs here, guys. We again, I think we hit what was the all-time high last week? Was it 40?
I think
it was 42 we had in the chat. So hopefully we can hit it. We're starting off strong here, 14. I'm going to give a couple shout outs here. We got Kieran in the chat. He's first. Meta's second. We're going to talk BZX Meta. We'll get to that in a second. We got Cryptophasia. What's going on, Cryptophasia? Young content. Shout out to the gang. Yeah, welcome in, man. Persian Gulf. We got Paul talking about Celsius. DJ's in the house. DJ. You're my lad of the week, man. Not really, but that call on Creed. And then we've got Kieran talking about Sir How Many Swaps, and Manuel's in the chat. Manuel, nice to see you here. So we appreciate everybody showing up, man. That's to let us know what you guys want us to talk about this week. We've got a ton of news. We want to get to the actual lad of the week, though. We had some big breaking news. Do you wanna drop the lad of the week for us?
Yeah. So one of the guys, one of our very close friends, very close lad, became a father over the weekend. So congratulations to Mike Finch. He had a beautiful girl that was born. So he is the lad of the week.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys in the chat giving him some shout outs too. I know we dropped it in Lad's community chat, and everybody's kind of giving him a shout out. So yes, Mike, if you're watching, I'm sure you're not, because you're probably getting the 30 minutes sleep that comes with having a newborn. But yeah, again, shout out Mike, one of the original OGs on Layer 1. He had his baby this past weekend. So congratulations to him.
I'm looking forward to hear some dad jokes from him.
Dude, Mike's been dropping dad jokes since he was 21.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys, I just added in the description all the stories. So if you want to refresh your YouTube browser, you'll see all the stories that we're talking about this week. Obviously, if you're watching after the episode's live, you're gonna have it. So, guys, let's talk stats. I'm gonna pull up the stats here. What happened this past week with you, man? While I pull up the stats here, anything in crypto that you got involved in? What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I've been watching the BNB stuff, right? The Binance. It's pretty crazy, like how that's turning out. So I can't wait to like kind of talk about like what CZ is doing and some of the stuff that's like happening in the background with other exchanges too, like not only Binance, but others that are starting to get into it as well, start up, setting up these DeFi type of stuff, and that's actually being reflected in their token, like Obi was doing it and stuff. So, and it's interesting to see how like a lot of the exchange tokens are getting locked up in these DeFi farms, and like what kind of effect it has on the price of that exchange token. So that stuff has been pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah, guys, BNB is down 4% since we went live, so that is a situation. We're getting a layer one dump here. But yeah, based on what Dima was just saying, we'll get into that later when we do hit BNB. Obviously, that's up on the ticker right now. I'm going to switch the ticker over. Scott's always the one getting on me to switch that ticker, but I will switch it over. But yeah, over the past, I would say 30 days, up 33%. Yeah, they've been doing some big things. I think it's up even it was even more before this little pass dumped back to $30. But anyways, guys, a lot of good stuff to get to. I'm going to get to the stats right now. We had, it looks like, top 5 countries from this past week. U.S. It looks like UK switched with Australia this week. So U.S., UK, Australia, Canada, and Germany. That's going to be the top 5 in this past week. Obviously, top 3 episodes. DeFi Mega episode. Flint, Michigan DeFi Mega Bowl. We had number 1, and then we had 2 Liquid Apps. We had that interview with Gall, and then we had that Masari episode coming in at number 3. A little bit of breaking news here, guys. I don't know if you can see the ticker, but it says, so Tuesday we got Dimitri's desk. Got to hit that. Wednesday, guys, we don't have an interview this week, or at least early in the week. So Wednesday, what we're going to do, I loved what Everything EOS did with their little town hall thing, post-Dan interview. That's what we're going to do for Layer 1. We're gonna have a little AMA session, have a little Layer 1 town hall. I love that concept. We're gonna do it live, so we want to make sure everybody that joins that, we're gonna have like a private link. I don't want to see anybody's privates on live stream, and we don't want to get bombed. But Wednesday we will be having that town hall. We don't have a time. Stay involved in our Telegram. We don't have that time yet, but it will likely be around this time, maybe 1-2 p.m. And we'll do that with the community. We'll hop into Zoom, and everyone will just, get to be involved, man. We'll see where that goes. NFT Live on Thursday. Stellar. We've got the Stellar Foundation in on Friday, as well as Dimitri's desk. So that is the stuff for the week. A lad pointed out, though, what happened to Dimitri's desk this past week. What's going on,
man? So I keep on getting in trouble for some reason with YouTube. Basically this is the second time that YouTube took down my stream right after the live stream because of violation. And this time they like put a note saying that it was like misinformation scam or something like that, blah, 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 all this crazy stuff. Yeah. Which is like ridiculous, so obviously I submitted the appeal for it. So, YouTube is going to take their time to review it, I guess, and return the content to the right owner of the channel. But it's crazy because we've seen the news come out from multiple sources, like big YouTube channels that are involved in crypto have been targeted. And I'm not sure if it's like an automated thing that they're doing with an algo that they can't really get their hands on to fix it, because there's still so many scams that are being advertised, right? So we were talking about this pre-episode, is that I wonder if even like the ad that was played on Dimitri's desk was, let's say, for example, a scam that was promoting some kind of like Ethereum scam that we usually see, and if the person that was watching it was trying to report that ad, but ended up reporting maybe my video instead. So it's like a constant struggle with YouTube, to be honest. They make their policies so vague, and honestly, there are players on YouTube that are just doing straight up stuff that just like
complete scams.
Yeah, like saying that, hey, this token, buy it, it's gonna go 1,000x, without any disclaimers or anything, right?
YouTube, you locked up the wrong guy, man. There's so many
Yeah.
people in crypto you could have locked up. I'm not saying lock up Ivan, okay? But he's over here. He's on my YouTube ads now, shilling the next 1000x coin. I like what Ivan's doing. That was just a little joke. But there is a lot of other people that are doing shadier or shady things, and I feel like you're doing it the right way. I think it really is just like one person coming by, clicking that flag button, and just it just happens like with their algo. So it looks like Evan Schindler's in the house.
Ooh.
Our man Ev, back from the ICO alert days. Great to see you. A newly minted lad is now in the house. He said keep KGB off of YouTube.
It's probably him, man. I know. It's probably Evan. We figured it out.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you showing up, Ev. Drop what's going on. I know you're still in a little bit of IOST action, but yeah, drop what's going on with yourself in the crypto space. I know you're super involved in podcasts, but good to see you. Yes, Kieran, Ivan is a shill now. He has YouTube ads. He is all over that stuff. Guys, there's 20 of you in the chat right now, so we appreciate you guys showing up. Again, I'm doing the distribution after this episode, so Lads distribution from the past week is going to happen today, and you should be getting Lads if you participated in the content. But if we hit all-time high, again, I think it was 42, I think Dimitri was saying, if we pass 42, you get another drop of Lads. That's how we're doing it. If we hit all-time highs, you guys are getting Lads. Keep an eye out for the updates as far as Lads go. Shortly. So we're definitely making moves on the back end. A lot of good things are happening there, and we'll get started with the interview. Anything else before we started?
Man,
this
I feel like
episode?
I need to organize the Dimitri's Desk army of lads that will, protect the content for me, and I can unleash them on YouTube when things go wrong. So, get me out of gulag on YouTube.
Yeah, the lads are starting to become a little bit of an army, right? Like we've had a lot of Twitter posts where guys have gone in, and I think Brandon was in the Everything EOS channel with that Dan interview, and Layer1 was in there, Brandon was in there dropping lads. So guys, yeah, that's the future, man. We can really, I guess, growth hack a post or something like that if all the lads get involved. Maybe if you've got something going on and you're a lad, drop it in the Telegram group. Maybe we can get involved in retweeting your stuff too. So that's kind of how we want that to look. So okay, so we got a ton of content. I know Young Content's talking about the NFT farming talk. He's looking forward to kind of getting to, but we got a whole episode, guys. We've got breaking news, and we'll get to quick news, and then we got some discussion talk. So we'll definitely be hitting that. Evan's talking about the Dan Larimer Everything EOS. We're 100% going to get to that. You guys see the column right up there. It looks like right here. Once you see that ticker get to EOS, we'll be hitting that, Evan. So without further ado, man, let's hit breaking, and let's get this show on the road.
Yeah, let's get it rolling. So first thing with breaking, obviously we have to address the BzX exploit, right? So that exploit that happened, kind of took the crypto community by surprise, right? Because everybody's like careful about like all these exploits that continue to happen, and nobody's first question was like, well, all right, how much funds was actually extracted due to this exploit? But the BzX team was quick enough to tell the community that, hey, there's no funds at risk, and nobody really lost funds because of this exploit, because they have the insurance fund that's basically backing any type of black swan event that can occur, similar to this one that happened on BzX, where the issue was basically had to do with the code where you could send from and to the same address, and create issues there in terms of duplicates. And they noticed this issue start happening when their TVL basically start dropping quickly. So they noticed, hey, there's an issue that's going on. So they start investigating, and then eventually, essentially fix this issue. They did end up pushing a fix that was also quickly audited by some of the big, auditors in the space. And that's kind of where we are now. It is important to keep in mind the insurance fund when these things when these things do happen. Nobody can kind of predict when it's going to happen or if it will happen, but it's always good to have like kind of a stash in there, right? Just in case things do go down, that you do have, kind of that war chest protection in case of a black swan event, which is kind of, similar to what happened here. And, it's interesting because a lot of people will be taking this BzX thing as maybe a negative, right? Because, hey, listen, there's an exploit and that continues to happen. But really, you have to understand that it's not of the fact that it happened. It's kind of like, what was the reaction? What happened post that, right? So the funds were not lost. The team responded quickly. There was an insurance fund for protection there. And all these things together is really what makes the company better, because we've seen, right, in the past, like, synthetics had issues, right, with the pricing protocol for data on Uniswap and all those things that were happening in front running, but they bounced right from that, right? They fixed the issue and they were able to grow out of that, right? And now they're a pretty big player in the industry. So it's really how, it shows to the community how they attack these issues, once they have them, so.
Yeah, I want to point out real quick, I had that article up on the screen. It looks like they tracked the attacker down via on-chain analytics, and they were able to get him to restore those funds. So it looks like literally, yeah. So it looks like and that's the kind of like breaking news. You have DeFi lender BzX reclaims 8 million stolen in Sunday's attack. So a little bit of breaking news there from CoinDesk. But so is this a situation like, let's say let's say they couldn't track him down, right? Via whatever Mixer, something like that. Is this a situation where, like, this is the exact situation where, like, Nexus Mutual Insurance, I know you've been talking about them for a little while. Is this something that would have kind of restored funds to the users that paid into that insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what would happen. But the problem is that it's not used widely in the industry just yet, right? So it's like, these platforms are not using that insurance just yet. And I guess if you could use that insurance for personal basis, like if you are, let's say, working with some kind of a smart contract and you want to get that insured because you have a pretty big stack that you're trying to allocate, then yeah, you could use Nexus Mutual as that insurance to pay for. But how many people, would do that, right? It's like, the whales would be able to kind of survive there, but really the smaller guys that didn't do that would end up in a hole, right? And honestly, I've talked about this. The reputation in the industry is such an important thing, right? And once that kind of breaks and the trust breaks, then it's very hard to regain it and be successful in the industry post that. So I think that's another also point, is that some of these DeFi contracts that not necessarily have a team and don't have like a support that can provide these type of things should we hit like a black swan event. That's something that the whales are kind of, taking note of, right? Because if they are allocating a big amount of money, they want to be able to see, hey, listen, is there an insurance fund? Well, how are you guys going to handle any type of conflicts? Let's say it gets hacked or the pool gets drained and all those things. That is the counterparty risk that all these important players need to know before they're going to allocate a good amount of money. And with this, being done on BzX, the way they performed it, obviously, just shows, hey, listen, we are here, to support the community, and should there be any issues like this, that happen, and they're quick in resolving. They even chase down the guy and take the money back from him.
Yeah, there's a whole other, I think, conversation too that I kind of want to get your opinion, guys, in the chat, but also Dimitri here. This contract was audited, so it kind of broaches the subject of like audits kind of being a false sense of security. I think most people say, oh, it got an audit, safe as hell. Like this is going to be okay. But as we can see through this story, this contract that was exploited was audited. So are the audits being done in DeFi right now a little bit much of like false security? If this can happen, then what are audits even other than that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think just in general, with the audit companies right now, they're probably dealing with the huge volume in terms of, contracts that need to be audited, right? So they're super swamped. I'm wondering if, obviously some of these will slip through cracks, right? And they're not going to be perfect. It's still better to have an audited contract rather than just completely unaudited. But there's still going to be some bugs that will fall through cracks. And I just hope that with the volume that these audit companies are dealing with, that the quality overall is not going to go down, and that they are able to scale, basically with the new demand for auditing, and scale up enough staff to be able to accommodate, all of these without, making any compromise on the work that they do, right? Because again, that's another point of the reputation, right? If the smart contract was audited by this audit team and then suddenly there's a bug, then everybody's like, well, wait a minute, this auditing company is not that
black
good.
eye.
Right? Yeah.
Definitely. Guys, we got 25 of you guys in the chat right now. Like we said, 42 is all-time high. Get the bots running. Get the farms running. Get some of that lads yield farming going. Bruno's saying you can't audit everything. They will always be smarter than you. Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's another layer of security, but the point that I was trying to make was that I think sometimes people view audits as like an end-all be-all. It's a silver bullet. It's like completely unbreakable, and obviously there's going to be some smart people that know how to exploit some of this code. So definitely be safe out there. All right, guys, we're going to jump into the next breaking news. We've got some Tron breaking news and then some Polkadot breaking news. Dima, let's do it.
Yeah. So as we know, Tron got into DeFi, and the interesting piece of news that actually came out today was something about Tron DeFi project called MyRose.finance fails to support USDT withdrawals. So it's pretty crazy. The way they describe it is that there's actually an issue in the functionality of the platform or the code that they found out, where you basically, when you do deposit your funds and you participate in the pool, well, you're going to have a hard time withdrawing these funds from the pool. And that's like the nightmare for, basically anybody who's participating in these DeFi platforms, is that, besides the fact that, hey, listen, maybe you get hacked and the pool gets drained, or your funds absolutely get stuck because of the smart contract and the programming that was done on the platform, which, and that's kind of like, going along lines that everybody's trying to race to the market to deploy their platforms on, let's say, Tron or other chains and so on. And they're, cutting corners a lot, right? So maybe, not doing the audit, maybe not creating a code and seeing issues with, certain things that can come up, and they're just deploying the contract. So that's an example of it, where basically, this money rose that finance is having issues, people, basically reclaiming their USDT, and we'll see how that's going to work out. Obviously, if that's not really good for Tron, right? That kind of goes back to their their chain, and if something like this is happening on chain, that doesn't reflect kind of good values of the overall, the protocol itself. If there was, like, let's say, scams that are being started on like Binance or any other protocol, right, that would not be reflected good on the branding of that protocol that's having all these things that are built on it, right? So there's got to be some kind of oversight, to a certain point, where, because you're going to start having a bunch of these devs that are trying to replicate and deploy these platforms on different chains. Since everybody's rushing to do that, oftentimes there's mistakes and issues, bugs that come out, and people end up getting hurt. And, that doesn't really, it's not a really good thing for the overall protocol PR, right?
Yeah, Tron has been making a couple waves in the community. Obviously, like in the same form that Binance is taking, where they're trying to attract these DeFi. I think IOST did it this past week as well. They announced their DeFi protocol there. But we have seen, with that good news, we've also seen some bad news that mostly goes along with Tether, right? We've seen EOS, some Tether move from Tron to EOS, and now I want to kind of pull this story up here. I don't know if this is in direct retaliation or direct relation to what happened in the story that you just talked about, where people weren't able to pull funds. But it looks like via the Tether team, tomorrow Tether will coordinate with a third party to perform 2 chain swaps conversion from Tron to ERC20 protocol for 1 billion USDT. So it looks like there's more USDT moving away from Tron, not just what was moved initially from Tron to EOS. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've seen these type of migrations back in the day when Tron just started, and using Tether for whatever things that they needed. But now we're seeing that migration, out of Tether into perhaps other protocols. Did they mention? I know we were speculating that maybe it would be EOS that they're moving to, but there was no mention of where they're moving it.
Well, they're moving it to Ethereum, so it's going from Tron to Ethereum. Obviously, there's a need for liquidity on Ethereum, right? So maybe we'll see exactly where those funds move, but they're definitely migrating it to ERC20. So the last bit of news we have in breaking, guys, not much of a large story, right? It's just a tweet from Gavin Wood, but it looks like the first successful InterChain asset transfer on Polkadot happened. So obviously, Polkadot has the setup where they're trying to have this parachain setup where everyone can build on top of Polkadot and also still kind of interact between each other and not just the Polkadot chain. Well, it looks like, based on this video of Gavin that Gavin posted, and obviously you guys can't fully see it, but you guys can head on over to Gav of York to actually see what's going on here, or you can look in the description for the link. But it looks like two transfers were made between, I believe, Kusama and Dot. So that I mean, that's bullish. Again, not much information there, but that's what they're trying to do, is be able to not only kind of relay back to the main Polkadot chain, but have these chains be interoperable between each other. So quick piece of news. Obviously, Dot's doing some big things. Parachains are taking off a little bit. Dot in general has kind of captured the community's interest. We knew this would happen. Obviously, Gavin is leading a large team there, so it's just happening. So we've got some guys in the chat, some new members here. So we've got Daniel. Obviously, what's up, Dan? He's an OG lad there. But we have Robert and Rob. I don't know how to say it. Can you help me with this one? Hugendorn. Yeah, so he said sub Layer 1 lads, play to earn festival coming in November. Cannot wait to see that, man. We've got a lot of the stories we use when we get to that NFT subject, and some of the stories we use on NFT Live, they're coming straight from Rob's site, play to earn .online, I believe. So definitely interested to see you in the chat here. Let us know what you make of the NFT industry, Rob. You obviously are super involved, and we're looking forward to maybe being next to you in the old sandbox land. I know he's looking to do some media district stuff. So great to see you in the chat, Rob. Hopefully you enjoy the episode. We're getting to NFTs later on, though. So yeah.
Boom. I guess that's a wrap as far as the breaking news go. Next up, we got quick news.
Yeah, we got some quick news, guys. So in the same light that we talked about earlier with Dimitri and kind of getting censored there for his content, Brian Armstrong's talking about being kind of censored as far as their Coinbase app is concerned from the Apple Store. So obviously we have some I'll get to your question here in a second, Bruno, but obviously Brian's coming out here and kind of complaining that the Apple Store, that is, kind of censoring DeFi apps in general. So I guess there's a couple different functionalities that they're trying to censor here: the ability to earn money using cryptocurrency and the ability to access decentralized finance apps. So for example, Coinbase Earn, something that you can easily access on desktop, cannot be accessed via mobile. And this kind of goes along, this is kind of Apple's MO, right? Like, we've been seeing more traditional games and more traditional apps have the same problem. I know Fortnite, I think it was, that got banned because they had that in-game currency that was having them earn different type of currencies other than what could be USD in their platform. So that's happening in the traditional app space. It's definitely going to hit DeFi, but it's basically the story is just Brian kind of flaming Apple Store, kind of wondering when this is going to change, when Apple is going to be a little bit less restricted than they have been with apps that have maybe their own in currency form or just method of payments inside of that. So yeah, what do you make of that Coinbase news, man?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's obviously I understand the perspective from Coinbase, but from Apple's perspective, I think that they're worried about obviously the implications that this can have, let's say, on money laundering or like just people getting hurt. Let's say maybe that's why they're trying to be cautious about it, but that also puts Android kind of ahead, right? Because we've seen
Mm.
a lot of the applications that have been built and they're getting released on like Android, Samsung, and so on, right? So they're missing out a little bit on that market share as their competitors are kind of moving forward. So I think Apple will turn around later on. They are usually not the ones that like to be the first movers in especially in an industry like this.
Hmm.
So I think they're gonna just wait and see. Then eventually they're gonna make the process a little bit better. But I'm I understand why Coinbase is getting frustrated with it.
Yeah, Coinbase definitely has some like centralization concerns themselves within the cryptocurrency community, but it's interesting to see the other end of that spectrum where they're trying to get some stuff done. I know initially, based on the article, and I do kind of remember hearing about this story early on, but right when Coinbase launched on the App Store, they initially got delisted. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out on that. Another quick piece of news: it looks like Ti is settling with the SEC for 75K. So another stance of why the SEC, I guess, even, I mean, they're there to obviously kind of prevent fraudulent situations from happening and all of these things. But if he's going to settle for 75,000 and he made 2.2 million in profits, what is the actual slap on the hand there from the SEC? It looks like they could be a little bit more heavy-handed when someone's making 2.2 mil, and only losing $75,000. So this has to do with the Flick ICO. I think they were also saying that, and here's the 75,000 civil penalty. It looks like they were also saying that he used some of those funds that he received to pump the actual price of Flick and
Shocker.
price of Spark tokens. I guess Spark is the token, Flick is the protocol. But there is a lot of devious things. They said proceeds of his manipulative trading went on to buy a Ferrari, $1 million home, diamond jewelry, and other luxury goods. So
Nice.
yeah, exactly. If they ever catch us, that's what they're gonna nab us for. But yeah, again, 2.2 mil, only paying a $75,000 fine. He needs, yeah, like DJ's saying, he
Well,
needs to come into Lads and start flipping these tokens with us. Not
yeah,
investment
yeah.
advice.
He sounds like a veteran. But I mean, it is interesting. Yeah, 75 is not much compared to how much he reeled in. But
Hmm.
you also have to understand that when you do have a CC, try and go after you, you're probably going to spend quite a bit on them lawyers. So
Mm,
he probably did spend a lot on lawyers. So that 75K is not probably what
very
he
true.
spent all in all, right? He probably spent a pretty good amount. So lawyers are the ones that actually were the winners.
Yeah, it definitely named him as a defendant in the actual case and where he was settling. So 100% was paying more for lawyers. Bruno, he's asking if Kusama and Dot are the same thing. I'm again, I think we need more Polkadot lads. I think there's a lot of alpha opportunities within Polkadot, and we research opportunities within Polkadot. So we're not heavy investors into Polkadot, so we're not the best people to ask for this, but Kusama is essentially, I believe, a test net, like a live test net for Polkadot. They call it like the Canary Network for Dot. So they're not exactly the same thing. They have their own separate tokens. Basically, they're using Kusama to kind of push updates to Polkadot easier by having that live testnet exist. So definitely not the exact same thing, but I can see what you're talking about. But from Gavin's kind of dashboard there, it wasn't clear what parachains were being used, at least in the seconds that I was. Yeah, Kusama is the Canary testnet, 100%. So,
Yep.
guys, if you have some dot knowledge to drop on us, please do. We're always trying to learn about different networks. Again, one thing about Layer1, we're crypto wide, so it's awesome to get to hear from every type of little community that's out there. Some bigger than others.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, let's
absolutely.
move on.
So yeah, let's move on with the rest of the quick news. So got this interesting stuff coming from IRS. So IRS is offering 625,000 to crack Monero. Obviously, Monero is a privacy coin, and the overall IRS and U.S. regulators have been pretty good at tracking Bitcoin so far with some Bitcoin analytics that they use on blockchain analysis and so on. But Monero obviously hasn't been cracked yet, and that's what they kind of going after next, because we've seen that darknet obviously has been popular in using some of these privacy tokens like Monero. So it's part of the IRS crackdown that they're trying to do, to be able to offer this bounty to maybe somebody who's looking to crack Monero. 625,000 to crack Monero. I think it's a little bit on the low end. Doubt they're going to be able to fulfill that and crack Monero with that big of a bounty, to be honest, but we'll see what happens. Monero obviously has been pretty solid as far as the privacy goes. But yeah, it just points out the spotlight is on them now, right? So it seems like the regulators are running out of ways how they can crack it, and now they're going up to the market and basically saying, hey, listen, we're just going to open this up to anybody who can help us with this stuff.
Yeah.
So it seems like they're kind of desperate.
Yeah, I'm glad that the narrative around money laundering and terrorist activities with Bitcoin is kind of fading away. At least it seems that way to me. I think like right when Bitcoin was just first starting, it might just be from the proliferation of all these different tokens, right? When Bitcoin was itself and maybe 20 other tokens, it was easy to kind of highlight Bitcoin there. But now that there's thousands of different tokens, Monero included, maybe it's just taking that pressure off of Bitcoin a little bit. But it does feel like that Bitcoin's becoming more obviously mainstream, less about, hey, this is funding terrorism, things like that. Speaking of that, Ross is still in jail, and I don't want to like go down this rabbit hole, but like now that narrative is changing, I wonder if the thought process there isn't to have him in jail for life, like that. It just I really hope one day he does end up getting out, and that was kind of just a plug there. It looks like Scott is in the chat. He's saying I'm late. What's going on, Scott? Great to have you, one of the lad OGs. We had about 29. It looks like 28 in the chat right now, guys. 42 is the all-time high, so tell your friends, get those mining rigs going, and mine some lads here and open those browsers. But anyways, we got two more pieces of quick news, and then we'll hop into discussion, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So the news about Square launches a consortium to pool crypto-focused patents and shield against patent lockup. So this interesting stuff. It's actually happening in regards to the patents, because we've seen in the industry where there's these patent trolls and so on, right? And especially in the hot sector, there's a lot of patents that get locked up, and it kind of slows down the development, because then if the project gets into a legal issue, then that's very draining on the resources and stops the development of the overall industry. So what they're suggesting and what they're trying to do is, Jack Dorsey's obviously the man. He's trying to put together a library of patents where people can basically deposit that patent, and everybody can use that patent basically in the industry without being worried that they're going to be sued or whatnot, which is really good. It'll be interesting to see how big that library will get. But it does, he does see an issue in the industry, a theme that is basically related to the patents, and he's trying to resolve that by bringing the crypto community together, and maybe taking care of that issue and not slow down the overall industry because of legal stuff that patent trolls can be doing. And that really, like, the patent trolling is pretty significant. Like, it's crazy, especially in the hot sectors. Like that, it's a serious problem, and I think that's his experiment to kind of fix that issue. So we'll see what's going to come out of that.
Yeah, it's great to have great founders in the community. You know what I'm saying? Like having Dorsey being an advocate for cryptocurrency is perfect for us. There's like some people that you just know we're glad to have you. You know, like
Yeah.
Synthetics and Stanny and Andre. These are all great people to have in the industry, kind of leading us forward. Jack being on the outside and also the inside, it's perfect, man. I salute to him for doing that. Like, is there really a reason for doing that other than other than just wanting to help push the industry forward? You know, I don't know about the volume that's being traded on Square with Bitcoin these days, but that could be the only extrinsic motivator there. So I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jack has been doing wonderful stuff for the industry, and overall, he's. I'm a big fan of him. Right. It really
Mm-hmm.
comes down to like people that became rich, and you look at them what they do with their money, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
once they become rich, and he's been giving back, and he's been doing a lot of wonderful stuff to try to change the world towards in kind of a better place, make it a better place.
Got it. Got it. All right. Last piece of quick news. We'll get to some of the comments, guys. There's about 30 of you guys in the chat right now. We got to hit number 42, and then we'll get some lads airdrops. But let's hit the last piece of quick news, and then we'll get to some of these comments.
Yeah, the last piece of news is basically European Union coming out. European Union official pledges action stablecoins after calls for new curbs. So obviously the stablecoin markets are heating up, right? We've seen a lot of interest coming from countries that are actually struggling with their local currency, right? Because if your local currency is dropping and you need access to dollars, if the government is trying to prohibit you from getting to a dollar from your local currency, then if you have an internet, you can technically just get exposure to US dollar by buying a stable coin. And that's, I think, something that I've talked about, that most likely regulators will start targeting that stablecoin market, because they're seeing that as a proxy, for some of these some of these people that are in struggling countries to get into the dollar and ditch the local currency. So they're starting to kind of think there's nothing that's put in stone yet. They're just saying, hey, listen, just expect more regulations that are going to be coming and so on, to make sure that there's no shady stuff going on, right? They would just want to keep pulse on that sector because it's growing quickly and it's in relation to the dollar. And if the global overall, crisis escalates and those countries suffer hyperinflation, then, if there's going to be a run to the dollar through these stable coins, then, we've talked about the idea. Actually, we've talked about it with Kane back in the day. I believe about, oh no, it was actually with Zach Prince from BlockFi. He's talking about how it's an interesting perspective because it can put the country into this dollarization effect, right? So it's like if the citizens start moving away from local currency more into the dollar, then you have this dollarization of the country, which then it puts you in this awkward situation where it's like, well, the fiscal policies, the monetary policies are being dictated by US, but the fiscal policies are being dictated by the local government. Kind of what we have in Europe right now, right? With the European Union, which we know doesn't really work well. So there's like the good side of it, and there's the bad side, and they're trying to make sure that the regulations are there, which is good for the legitimate businesses, entities, right? Because they want to be able to comply with those regulations and be good with the regulators. So I think it's gonna really give more opportunity for those that have been doing things right, like BlockFi and so on, right? Give them more opportunity to expand into territories like Europe and being comfortable with the regulation there, rather than kind of riding in the dark and waiting for them to give you guidance there. So I think it's just overall, European Union is recognizing the sector is growing. It's time to lay out some groundwork, and it shouldn't be necessarily perceived as a negative thing.
Yeah, the monetary colonization, I guess you could put it, you've been talking about for a long time, where there is no like physical colonization going on, but you have this whole thing of everyone in that country being able to trade in USD, and not only, I guess, how can I put this? I guess like wanting to trade in USD because that's the way it's doing, and then therefore the country's current or previous currency becomes just completely debased and just completely useless at
No.
that point. So then you really do have that monetary colonization. So I did have one more piece of news to get to really quick. We had that interview with SNX and Lend. I do kind of want to hit that. So. What was kind of the best part? Because that what you just talked about kind of mirrors Kane's comments as well, where he was talking about the Australian kind of regulators there. He was saying, hey, look, there's all of this billions of dollars being locked up in potentially Australian protocols, SNX being one of them. What's going to happen when the regulators kind of look at this and say, oh shit, there's actually something happening here, and it's right in our backyard. So that kind of mirrors Kane's comments on DeFi in general, maybe not stablecoins, but DeFi. So what was your favorite part of that SNX and Lend interview, man? That was a good one. That was a big one.
Yeah. There's so many great parts there. I think one of my favorite parts was about when I brought up the comparison between the CFI and the DeFi, and I talked. Obviously, I wanted to hear a perspective from Stanny, and as well as Kane. And the best part was when they were explaining that, basically, there is a counterparty risk when you do deal with the CFI platforms, right? Because the funds they're holding the funds. You don't know what they're doing with funds and all that stuff there. But on the DeFi sector, they're saying that from all the major players that they talk to, that are whales basically that sit on BTC or on ETH, they're actually starting to dip their toes into DeFi because they're knowing that the counterparty risk is becoming less and less, and it's becoming a much better kind of situation there. So it's interesting because it kind of goes along with Arthur Hayes's blog post that he did about how like he was saying that whales are going to be going with the CFI more side of things because they want to be kind of managed by the team that has reputation in the industry, and they're not subject to the smart contract. Because when things go bad, they can basically use their war chest to pay out some of the guys that were influenced. But all of that stuff was very interesting to hear their perspective. They're seeing much bigger growth now from these whales that are starting to dip their toes in DeFi, and that was very interesting.
Yeah, Kane's section about an answer to that initial question where he was talking about how the big players will essentially just dip their toes in, right? It's not going to be 50% that they're going to be risking at all. Obviously, that's not the way these guys roll, but it's going to be a very slow trickle, and that will get them almost in the same way with BTC, right? People are allocating, or at least big players are allocating small amounts of BTC, trying to figure it out, and then once that does happen, once they become more comfortable, it's like the race is on essentially. So absolutely great interview, man. I think Kane's point about Arthur being self-serving in his post is definitely a good point as well. So we were glad to have them on. Hopefully we can get more big DeFi players. I know we've been trying to get in touch with Andre for a little while now, so we will definitely look to have him on. That would be a big time episode. If you guys are owning any DeFi tokens, man, we're getting into DeFi right now. Obviously we're touching SNX and Lend, but we're going to make our way to Sushi here currently. So we've gotten to the discussion portion. There's about 30 of you in the chat, so this portion of the episode we want to have with you guys. That's why we kind of put the discussion moniker on it. So anything we're talking about here, and we'll get to the questions here in a second, I want to have that conversation. We want to have that conversation with you. So I'll pose this question first before we go to Sushi. This is my discussion question. What stage of the DeFi cycle are we in?
I think we're still in euphoria.
So if you had to give a number 1 through 10 on what stage we're in, or let's go 9 innings, because I like the way I'm in a couple chats with Maple, and he kind of threw this question out as well and put it towards innings. So if you're talking baseball, what inning are we in when it comes? So euphoria is somewhere around 3, I'm guessing, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, something like that. I would say so, because I mean you can see just how many platforms are rolling out, what kind of APY they're offering. There's that race, arms race that's going on. As I think Stanley was referring to that actually when we were comparing CFI to DeFi. Is he was saying, hey, listen, CFI guys actually need to catch up on this because we've been in this game for so long. And now they're just entering the arms race, and they're kind of a little bit behind right now. So I think I think we're still in that euphoria stage.
Yeah, I would guess around 3 or 4 as well, third or fourth inning. I'm sure you guys out there, you have all of your different guesses to this question, but basically, what stage are we in this DeFi cycle? I know I've seen a ton of people say, "Hey, look, this is the top." We had Novogratz on CNBC calling sushi, and it's like that is a top signal if there was one. I know we've had a slow correction since then, a smaller one at that, but I would definitely tend to lean on more towards this being a longer term bull scenario, especially as it comes to like the DeFi market. But I think these small corrections aside, I think you'll see more and more kind of start to pop up. Binance Chain being one of them. I know we talked about that pre-episode. You have this maybe these communities that haven't been in Ethereum that are now getting to experience that, and it's almost like the cycle's starting all over again on a micro level. Obviously, it's not going to be that huge run up that we just saw, but the Binance community, as an example, it's like these guys first time interacting with it, they're seeing the APYs for the first time, saying, "What the hell is going on here?" Yeah. And it's all this stuff that we've already experienced, within ETH.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, yeah. And I think, just in general, before people were sitting on tokens, right, on alts, you basically, the only thing that they were doing is they were sitting for speculation reasons, right? They're like, okay, the price is gonna probably go up, so I'm gonna sit on this token. Yeah, there's some functionality to it, but most of the speculators don't really care about that. They just care about the fact that you're gonna buy here and you're gonna sell higher, But now with this DeFi stuff coming out, well, if you are sitting on your tokens, you can actually put them to work. You can lend them, you can borrow tokens, you can do all this creative stuff, and all of that is just fueling the market, and the market is becoming more and more alive now. And all these people that have been sitting in the game for some time waiting for something to happen, well, now they can put their bags to work, use them as a collateral, let's say, or use them to lend out, to earn interest, and so on. It's a lot of creative stuff that's happening that's bringing the industry back to life, from the bear markets that we've experienced in the past.
Yeah, Dan had some interesting thoughts in his Everything EOS interview. I know later on in the episode, he was basically saying that anything above 5 or 10% has Ponzi elements to it, which no one's going to argue with him, right? It's kind of the community zeitgeist that is DeFi right now. I think everyone's in that risk on, or at least in this small little bubble, is super risk on for whatever reason. Let me get to some of these comments really quick. It looks like DJ and Brandon were talking about Monero being McAfee's lifeblood. CryptoPhage is saying free Ross, so hell yeah. We've got Lads, did you cover the land sale already? No, we're going to cover the land sale in that NFT section. I'd guess in like under the next hour, we'll probably get to that land sale. Scott is talking box, and he's looking like he's saying it's the first inning of DeFi. We're not even in the second inning. That's the bull that's coming from Scott right now.
Yeah, I also want to give shout out to Evan. I'm not sure if he's still here. Evan actually did get a chance to interview Ross's mother at one of the conferences in Philly. That was a very interesting interview, that he did. I'm not sure if it's still on the channel, but that was, that one, just give him a shout out on that.
It might be there. Look, Gall came on the episode and was like blaming us for kind of like, I think we just unlisted it. Like it's still there on the channel. Right. Yeah, but it might not be. It might be in its own playlist. Maybe we'll highlight that just for Ev. That way we can kind of get that. So Bruno saying no idea, just surfing until crash at the beach. Looks like that's what most of us are doing here. We're kind of riding the DeFi wave currently. So yeah, I mean that's a larger question. I think we've talked about two or at least one of maybe the black swan events that can occur to kind of have a situation where the DeFi craze kind of finds itself either coming to a halt or slowing considerably. One is that unwinding and not being able to have people liquidate their positions, right? Like especially on Ethereum, if you have a situation like that, people I think would become way more, more aware of the risks in that protocol specifically. I know that that's not as much of a risk, but you've mentioned this multiple times. But I do want to, and you can touch on it, but I do want to mention this other risk of the regulators that we're talking about. I think a lot of people feel that you can't regulate DeFi because it's decentralized. And I don't know. I think there's a debate to be had in there, man. I really do feel like if they do come heavy-handed down on one protocol, even though it's decentralized, like for example, synthetics turning into that tri DAO situation where they have 3 separate DAOs. If they came down hard on Kane, or they came down hard on one of these big founders of these protocols, you don't think that would be a huge hit, not only for that protocol but for DeFi in general? I think it's a little bit of a fallacy to assume like, okay, we're in a DAO, everything's decentralized, you can't lock us away. I do think that's more of a fallacy.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting discussion. We've talked to Kane about this, right? We were saying, well, listen, what they're gonna do, right? They're gonna put me in jail, and then like, what, like block, like let's say, block our URL. It's just like, well, yeah, they could do that, but listen, but the contract still works, right? So the smart contract can still work. So they really can't really shut it down because of the way it is structured. So
what happens with Sushi if the feds tomorrow came after Alameda? If they came after SBF, what happens to Sushi?
Yeah, I mean, it's still gonna run, right? There's still contracts available. The protocol is still running. Yeah, there's not gonna be a user interface, but programmers, right, could still interact with the smart contracts and so on.
But a majority of the people are not programmers that are interacting with this interface.
Boom, Sushi Swap 2.0 website. Like,
okay.
Like, all you have to do is just fork it. Like, create the website again, and that's it. And
Good point.
You create like 15 different websites that do the same thing, and it's really going to be like cat and mouse game at that point.
Yeah, the anonymous feature is obviously something to talk about as well. I mean, if you have an anonymous team, at least relatively, I know that was one of the things we'll get to. Well, we said we were going to talk Sushi, so we'll get to that. But having an anonymous team definitely allows you to do some other things. But then you have the reputational aspect. It's a give and take, right? Because if you're jumping into anonymous team's protocol, as opposed to Kane's protocol, you have way more risk. But you don't have the risk of that protocol getting shut down, yada yada yada. So it's a great debate, guys. Hop into the discussion, man. We'll shout out you guys if you are in the chat talking about this discussion piece with us. I think it's a fascinating talk on DeFi, man. Bruno's saying, no, you can't anon forks. It will be fun to watch. They can regulate on and off ramps. So what do you make of that comment? On and off ramps can be regulated. Things like Coinbase are definitely going to be regulated based on what they are right now, but what do you make of on and off ramps there?
Yeah. That's a good point. And that's something actually Kane had mentioned as well. And he mentioned that there's actually projects that right now that are available that do on-ramps as a DeFi project, right? So it's like, try to regulate that. If you have a on-ramp that is already decentralized, I think he was talking about like kind of the local Bitcoin, or something similar to that, but I don't remember the name of the project. But there is decentralized on-ramp solutions that are being built out right now, specifically for that reason that you mentioned, Bruno.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Let's get to Sushi real quick. We've got that discussion piece. Guys, if you're doing anything in the crypto space, or you really want to talk about something specifically, drop that in the chat. We'll definitely put it as part of our discussion. Otherwise, we're going to get into Sushi real quick and then move from EOS to Binance to NFTs and the rest of DeFi.
Yeah. So let's hop in. First, let's talk about kind of the timeline real quick, right?
Okay.
So we can catch up on this stuff.
It was a year ago, right?
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. So obviously ChefNomi, right, came out like dumping on the market his stake of Sushi. Everybody became very mad, and then you had Sam that came in, right, and then they did the whole multi-sig thing where they passed along the ownership to the community. Now there's multiple members that hold the multi-sig now, and everybody, I was actually talking about this to Kane, how like, hey, is Sushi now decentralized? And he was like, well, how is it decentralized? Because it got passed along from ChefNomi to basically Sam, so it's kind of still has the elements of centralization there, but Past that, after obviously the switch did happen, ChefNomi still had that ETH that he cashed out, right, from dropping all the sushi. And it turns out that recently he came out apologizing, realized I made a mistake, blah, blah, blah. I'm giving back the ETH that, I basically took by selling my sushi, and will be on the sidelines. So I won't be actively involved necessarily in sushi, but I'll be on the sidelines maybe as a consulting member or whatnot for the project. But everybody in the community was like, "Oh wow, that's fantastic!" So now we have the Sushi kind of Foundation is getting that money back, and they will be using that money. Actually, they voted this on to buy sushi, which is basically saying, "Hey, listen, we're just going to use that money that you given back to pump the price of sushi, right?" So that's obviously very bullish, right? If you're just saying that that's going to go through. But there are conspiracy theories, obviously, that are being involved in terms of why did he do this, right? If we've talked about on our channel, right, that sushi, when it was originally made by ChefNomi, right, everybody knew he owns 10% of sushi, right? But they did something very fascinating in terms of having a governance token, right, compared to Uniswap, right? Uniswap did not have a governance token. Sushi Swap did it.
Not that fascinating, but yeah, continue.
But yeah, okay. So they did that, and then everybody kind of knew that he holds the funds. And then when he dumped, everybody's just like, "Whoa, what the hell?" And it's like, "Well, what did you expect?" Like the guy created, this, it attracted a lot of attention. The system continued to work, and he ended up cashing out, which was actually, past that. It's like, okay, since he dropped his bag, then we should be fine. Sushi is going to go through price discovery. It's up to the users now, and so on, right? Move past that. But crypto community is so strong that they were able to kind of like go back to him and convince him, per se, to send the funds back, which is, there's a lot of conspiracies around it, because, what if somebody big contacted ChefNomi and said, "Hey, listen, I'm just going to buy your ETH for whatever, USDC or whatnot," right? And then you just, we send it back to the foundation, which gives them an exit, right? Because otherwise you would have to probably shuffle a lot of funds. You'd have to deploy it onto the market in slow trenches, without impacting the market and so on. So there's a lot of speculation that's happening why he did it, right?
And Sushi's also listed on FTX. So he could have made this announcement, taken the short side, and then when beforehand making the announcement that he returned all the funds, could have opened up a long easily and profited on both sides of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's also another, conspiracy theory that what he could have done. It's always interesting to think about it. You bring up a good point about the FTX listing, because he pretty much dumped, sushi when, like, a couple days after the FTX listing. So, obviously, now that you can hedge on FTX, then if you can cause the price to dump, then that hedge ends up making all the money for you. So that also absolutely could be the case.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting time in sushi land. I think based on the article, when they did make this kind of migration, it took 70% of the liquidity from Uniswap. And I think that's kind of a big discussion to be had too. What is Uniswap going to do? I think it was going off of being this kind of first mover and kind of having the brand and having the reputation around it. I think a lot of people kind of jumped. There's two sides of the debate, right? Like, and I think a lot of people took Uniswap's side, saying, "What is this fork? Like, you need to stick with Uniswap," even though maybe the token and the value, being able to kind of get, earn that sushi token while you're using it, where you don't have that opportunity on Uni. So it's an interesting thing to kind of point out. What will Uniswap do? Is Uniswap gonna? I know there was an interesting tweet. I'm gonna try to find it, of Hayden Adams, and there's a lot of speculation that not only is this, I think there was like a community announcement too around maybe having this a token created, but up till now Hayden hasn't really talked about it. And what you see from his tweet here, it says all you have here is saying pretty colors, and you have a token with a unicorn on it. So there's not much around, information concerning, the Uniswap token, other than I think a community-led one. Do you remember that? Do you remember seeing that where they were gonna like make a Uniswap token, but it was like community-led?
Yeah, yes, I did see something like that. And I also want to kind of clarify the stuff with the Uniswap in terms of liquidity leaving Uniswap. If we take a look at how much liquidity has been added to Uniswap from SushiSwap, basically, before the migration. So it actually turns out that really the impact of liquidity that was on Uniswap before was very minimal. It was actually, that 60% that you're referring to of liquidity that left from Uniswap to SushiSwap, that was all the liquidity that was added actually through SushiSwap. So it's whatever the SushiSwap added, it basically took it and sent it to their own platform. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But the fact that they were able to scale so much liquidity so quickly is obviously very fascinating. But it's important to not misinterpret it that saying that the liquidity 64%.
It's like from all-time high, essentially.
Right, exactly. So you just have to understand that the sushi swap liquidity that was brought into the Uniswap, and grew there, they just took that cake and basically moved it to SushiSwap itself. There's still, debates in terms of which one is better to use. I know a lot of players have been kind of testing around to see, all right, how much, if I do like 100 ETH trade into Tether, what is going to be the slippage on Uni, or it's going to be a slippage on Sushi, and so on. And there's also platforms that are coming out right now that use the aggregate of both of those to give you the best execution, to give you the best pools, and so on, right? So I think both of those players will coexist together in the industry. So
yeah, it will be interesting to see what their kind of response is. It looks like Bruno's saying Uni doesn't need to do anything. The rewards on Sushi were reduced by 90%. Liquidity will move elsewhere. Yeah, we have that user hopping talk on this channel as well all the time. I know you asked Kane and Stanley that. They're doing a great job of creating a community, even with what you see where people are chasing the APRs and things like that. So I do think eventually Uni will add a token. We'll see what they look to do as far as distribution goes, but I think they add a token here within, at least given an announcement within the next week. We'll see when they decide to. So it'll be interesting, man. This is a fun time in crypto right now. We haven't had this much fun and also this much, I guess, this little sleep in like about 2 years probably. So
yeah. So it's definitely very exciting because the space is changing very quickly. There's a lot of experiments that are being done, which makes it very exciting. It makes it very rewarding as well as very risky. So I think it's it's great. It's bringing the community together, and overall past that, we know that, hey, listen, this is, a bubble, right? That it's growing, but it's going to be still good because bubbles in general are good and good players come out of that bubble after it's done. We've seen that in past phases of ICOs and so on, right? It brings a lot of attention, capital, and so on to the sector. It grows at a very, fast speed, and they experiment a lot to see what works, what doesn't work. And then eventually we have that evolution come out and we have that solid product and infrastructure that basically the sector is going to grow on. But we will see correction sometime.
Yeah, and people will get wrecked.
Yeah,
believe that. Okay, guys, we're gonna move on from the discussion piece here. I obviously moved the column over there to Binance. So we've had a ton of moves in that Binance ecosystem. I think CZ has really taken to heart what Kane and Stanley were talking. I feel like we need to stop referencing that episode, but they were talking about the centralized exchanges needing to find some of this market share, right? And or else they lose out in the long term. So CZ has definitely done this. He's launched, I think, Binance Dex a long time ago, but it's seeing some volume kind of pick up there. We're seeing some different protocols launch on Binance Chain. I know that was a discussion we were having earlier in the day. You were saying, hey, like this isn't endorsed per se by Binance at all, nor is it part of the Binance team, but you do see people kind of building on this Binance Smart Chain, and we'll get to that here in a second. So before we do jump into that, I've got this story here. It looks like Binance is offering some grants here. Binance offering $100 million to projects building on its blockchain. So these are just like dev incentives to be building on Binance Smart Chain. It looks like up to $100 million. So this is CZ's chance to kind of, not I wouldn't say take away devs from Ethereum, but it looks like he's trying to build up his own dev pool here within the Binance Smart Chain kind of ecosystem. So it looks like up to, again, it says 100 million, but there's also references to 100,000. So I'm going to go along with 100 million, and we're going to say CZ is trying to make his way more so into DeFi here with this dev grant. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think they're going to be allocating 100K per project is what they're referring to there. The way to describe it is that the community is going to be voting in similar type of fashion, like we've seen Binance X and Launchpad and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's obviously attracting developers and people that want to build this stuff on Binance. We'll see what kind of quality is going to be there, because what stops some developers from just copying whatever the platform is on Ethereum or whatever the chain is,
Mm-hmm.
And moving over and doing the same exact thing on Binance. It's kind of I hate to refer to this, but like it reminds me of back in the day when we had that bet dice, right? Suddenly bet dice start becoming replicated on every single chain, and
Mm-hmm.
people were getting grants for it, right? It's like, well, you did is just move this same exact platform just to a different chain. And was that effective? Not really, right? There's no
Mm-hmm.
new innovation. It's just moving same stuff to that chain. And then again, I do give respect to the people that did catch this, hey, listen, I'm gonna build this swap on Binance chain, and Binance obviously is not necessarily endorsing this. It's not a Binance project. It's
Mm-hmm.
Dev that decided to build on their blockchain, but through that way, they're catching all the Binance community by saying, hey, listen, they got the branding there, they're feeding off, right? And
Yep.
everybody's like, hey, listen, Binance is launching this, whatever Burgerswap or whatever the swap is. And people are they like to be associated with that brand in that way, right? Even though it's not CZ backing it or whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of that success that they're seeing has to do with all the success that Binance had in building their brand, and they were clever enough to basically jump in and realize that, hey, listen, if we're going to build something like this, then we're going to really feed a lot from this community and catch a lot of attention, rather than maybe building it on some protocol that doesn't have that big of a presence in the industry, like CZ and Binance. So
Yeah, I'm going to give a big shout out to the Binance team as well, and this Binance Smart Chain in general, because we did have those, I think Burgerswap you mentioned, going along the food category, and we had BakerySwap this morning. So I actually participated in that launch this morning. Basically, they had that countdown. You were going to supply liquidity right when the countdown started, and you're going to chase the yield. It's DeFi, to a T. And what's been happening with these other automated market makers. So I got BakerySwap up here. This is essentially, and the reason that I kind of wanted to shout them out was the BSC, Binance Smart Chain, is integrated in MetaMask. So all you really have to do is go in the settings. They have the already in all the blog posts and in all the available information. All you really have to do is go into your MetaMask, insert the information to access this different network, and then it runs on your MetaMask without the large fees that are associated with Ethereum, but within MetaMask. So if you can get the assets onto the Binance Smart Chain and you can get past that one friction point of setting up the network in your MetaMask and things like that, it's perfect. I was in it this morning, and I was going through it this morning, taking part in this launch here. But the interoperability of saying, hey, I can have Binance Smart Chain on my MetaMask wallet and be interacting just like you would. I'm literally, you couldn't tell the difference between the Smart Chain and Ethereum in all aspects. And they have these low fees, and you're interacting just like kind of the scalable solution is on EOS. Like it's obviously different in a little bit on EOS, but you do pay incredibly less fees on this Binance Smart Chain, and you kind of have the same interface as you do on Ethereum. So shout out to them, man. That was a great experience this morning.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. We were talking about just in general how, well, first of all, it's nice to see the user interface there, it's being very simple. But second of all, like we were talking about how, now since ETH is kind of very populated with these DeFi projects, right? You have these whales and automated systems that automatically, try to front run and be the first ones that get into these farms, hedge out the risk, and slowly the alpha is dropping for the retail guys, right, that are looking to just participate in this project. So it's becoming more difficult for them to capture the market before these big players do. And ends up that these big players end up dumping on the smaller guys, and that cycle continues to happen because the Ethereum DeFi space is so already built out that it's much harder to find that alpha than before. Now with Binance, and these other chains coming out with DeFi, that they don't have those big players just yet, right, that are doing those things, right? They will eventually get to that point when there's enough attention and so on. But right now, it does give the ability for, for the smaller guys to be able to chase that alpha in a newly kind of created environment, especially with the fees being low and so on, right? That does offer an opportunity for them to, participate, and gives them more upside in terms of possible returns that can happen on those platforms, rather than being chased by some of these whales out of the protocols or farms that they participate in. So
yeah, I think it was a Tom Shaughnessy podcast like a couple months ago as the DeFi craze started to pick up, and it was basically about chasing microcap tokens because and this was like it's all relative, right? Like a top 100, like a 100 market cap token is going to be too small for some of the biggest funds, and way too big for even the smallest retail person. But so it is relative there. But going down the corridor each time, you have those opportunities because the larger and larger players can be involved. Obviously, the biggest funds in crypto are never going to be involved in these DeFi plays, at least at first. And that's just the situation. So I think you're right. Like going into Binance Chain is a farther rabbit hole than in the Ethereum one, and it will consistently get bigger and bigger as more people get involved. So absolutely, yeah, great point.
Yeah, and also on top of that, with the Binance token, right, BNB. So it's also important to mention that because there's stuff that's being built out right now. Well, I mean, we have that Bell farming that's going on right on Binance. It's the Launch Pool, I believe that's what it's called. And there's a lot of BNB that gets locked up there. There's the Burgerswap that has $25 million in total liquidity locked. That's in BNB. So all these places that are locking up BNB, it does take it out of the circulating supply, right? So that means that it's easier for the price to kind of gap, up, right? We've seen in the past where when a lot of ETH was getting locked up, the prices of ETH were actually going up because, well, first of all, you had to use it for gas fees. And then there's more people that are trying to take advantage of this farm. So they would have to buy ETH, let's say. So the more token you take out of circulation and the more players are still coming in to take, part in this, the more the token will go up in price. And that's something we've seen that effect on BNB, even though, like you mentioned, today it dropped 4%. So you have to realize that this works both ways. If you do take out that circulating supply, then you'll have volatility that will pick up to the upside as well as the downside, right?
When a pool ends, for example, when a pool ends, they'll look to sell.
When there's like a rotation that happens in capitals, there's these liquidity gaps that can occur within that token, like, for example, BNB. And then you see prices just fluctuate abnormally because we've seen in the past where you have by like each move, let's say, it would be like 5 cents, 10 cents, right? Well, now it's going to be like 50 cents to $1 right? And that's because of the phenomenon that's going on here with locking up that token supply. And also have to keep this in mind is that when you do participate, let's say in these farms, for example, if you have like BNB that you want to stake and to earn like this Bell token, for example, well, nothing stops you from actually, putting that BNB in and then shorting BNB to lock in the BNB price. So therefore, you're not exposed to the BNB volatility if it does start unwinding. So you have, their price point there, and that's it. You're earning Bell, which is basically free. That's going to be listed on Binance, and then you can do whatever you want with that. So it's all about also the risk management when you do participate in these farms, is the ability to take away that downside risk volatility for the asset that you hold. And that's what really, brings a lot of these big players and really piques their interest in order, to earn this kind of almost risk-free capital. The only pretty much risk that you deal with is the counterparty risk, and we know that Binance, it's pretty good in terms of that side of things.
It's good, but also, again, I think it is important to point out the thing that you said this morning was that they're not affiliated with Binance, and I think CZ came out and talked about this BakerySwap, and I'll pull it up here if I can. Let me see. I think I lost it. But yeah, the fact that they're not officially endorsed by Binance, but that CZ's talking about it, you need to take that into consideration. I think the other thing to talk about before I get to some of these comments is the fact that some of these tokens now, like for example, this BakerySwap here, is going to possibly be listed on Binance. That's a whole nother thing. Now you have access to this Binance listing that a lot of, is a coveted spot within the crypto token community. If you can get the fast track to that Binance listing or a Binance DEX listing, that's an even more reason to possibly get in. So not investment advice. So guys, just taking you through my experience this morning on BakerySwap. Again, I already talked about the MetaMask situation where once you did get it set up through that MetaMask, it had no differences between interacting with the Ethereum chain and interacting with Binance chain other than the lower fees. So basically what happened here is it launched at 12 Eastern. You had the ability to, if you did have Binance USD, and so if you had BNB and Binance USD, you were able to, or any of these other pools, you were able to essentially get into the pool, or you could have essentially bought Bake initially. And this is a question I had for you that goes to DeFi in general that I'll get to in a second. But my process, my timeline here was get the BUSD, BNB, stake there. Eventually, I realized that the APY was, I believe it came out of the gate like 2 million%, like some crazy number that all of these different DeFi protocols have had, and it was around 600,000 in the BNB BUSD pool. So I eventually switched. I bought as much Bake as I could, and I'm not going to get into any of the numbers here, but I entered the Bake BNB pool here. Obviously, the APY is not loading because I haven't connected my wallet. Want to keep that a little private, but was able to get into that pool, and it paid out handsomely. And I got my initial principal out, so I'm just kind of riding it now. But that was kind of my timeline. I realized, I need to buy Bake. But throwing this question your way, the way that these distributions work is fair distribution, right? The team doesn't have it, nobody has it. So if there's a Bake BNB pool, if there's a native token and a BNB, how do you get who gets this native token to sell initially to the person trying to buy it to then stake Baked to BNB? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when this first launched, again, just to clarify for the people out there, no one had Bake. So how do you stake Bake and BNB and enter this pool if no one has Bake? That's my biggest question, and I'll send it your way.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways of doing it, right? So one way is like, okay, if you let's say set up a farm, let's say BNB and BUSD that will be need to be locked in order to get this Bakery token, right? So that's the one way to get that distribution, right? So you are earning that Bakery token by locking in two different tokens,
and then you move it. Okay.
Right, and then you can move it to the other way. So that's my interpretation of how it's done. But there's also probably a way that, let's say, they establish a price where it's like, okay, ETH, X amount of ETH gets this much of the Bakery token initially, so it helps people to get set up on that initial Bakery and BNB farm, right? That's probably one of the methods as well. But yeah, it is a very good question. How does that start?
Yeah, I know we've been talking about BTC being used. It looks like they had a BTC BNB pool. I know that's been a hot topic on the show a bunch, whether people will be using BTC more often now as more options become available. So it looks like there's 30 guys in the chat here. We appreciate you guys showing up. We are in BNB right now. I think you're going to touch on Burgerswap really quickly. That's another AMM on the Binance chain. But just overall, man, I've been for my first experience with BSC, this has been good. So I implore all of you guys. That's one of the coolest things about the Lads community. We got Polkadot Lads, we got Ethereum Lads, we got EOS Lads, and we're all able to kind of share information. So Bakery itself, if you go to the blog, it has a tutorial to set up that Binance chain via your MetaMask. So if you want to get involved in stuff like this is, and again, not investment advice. We always have to freaking say that. But if you did want to just interact with the Binance chain, super easy. I would definitely recommend it. The fees are very, very low, but it has the MetaMask UI. Awesome stuff. So
yeah, it's very interesting to see how, that success there. Yeah, the Burgerswap is really not much else to say about it, besides the fact that it has $25 million US locked into it as far as the liquidity goes. And Bruno mentioned if projects lock BNB, it's easy will support, which is, kind of goes hand in hand with what I've explained in terms of taking that token out of the supply and then, having the price pump. It's easier to do that rather than, if you have a high circulating supply and people sitting on BNB tokens, they see the price run, they're like, okay, I'm going to sell, right? And then that has that selling pressure there. So you kind of taking away that sell side pressure, which I refer to as sell side liquidity crisis, where, basically the tokens are pumping and nobody's selling because a lot of that stuff is locked up. It's interesting to see this stuff, and, my concern with some of this stuff is that liquidity is available there as long as people stake, and there's no penalties for pulling the liquidity. Now in Ethereum, right, you do have to pay fees, and let's say if the network gets congestion, then the liquidity providers are kind of forced to keep the liquidity there because they can't get out because of the network congestion that's happening there. But what stops that from happening on other chains, let's say, that are, faster and have low fees, right? You have this liquidity that's available. People have their tokens locked up. Well, one day they're just going to be like, poof, they're gone, right? Liquidity's gone. They dip out. No penalties. They have no lockup period where you have to, stay in there for X amount of time. And, that's it, right? So it's interesting because in traditional finance, we have rules that the brokers use to reward, let's say, market makers for taking on trades and providing liquidity. And those that don't stick around, don't take the orders, reject orders, and so on, they usually get penalized and they get put in the back of a bus. So it's like all these things that, I think are still not resolved in DeFi.
It's going to take an event for people to realize it, I think. Right. So everyone's kind of just riding high on the rewards right now. So I'm going to get to some of these comments. Scott's saying he's so excited to see DApp connect EOS, Ethereum, and BNB. I think, and Bruno goes on to say, interoperability is the future combined with good user experience. 100%. I don't think if anybody in crypto is not about interoperability, I don't want to be associated with them. The fact that the Bitcoin maxis especially kind of throw me through a loop. I think it's funny to see people go from these kind of innovators and they kind of calcify to more laggards essentially. And I don't know how that process starts. I remember, dude, the Peter McCormick interview when he had some DeFi guys on, I was blown away by how little he knew about the Ethereum ecosystem. I was like, good Lord, man. What do you do all day? BTC, a Lightning network that I think Kieran has been experimenting with a little bit. But what do you do all day if you're just in BTC?
And
genuine question.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's actually like what's gonna steer up the next kind of run there, is because now that there's gonna be use for BTC to be utilized in, in farming, so like Wrap BTC, right? Binance listed Wrap BTC recently. They're preparing for those BTC wells to deploy their capital into, to make things work, right, in DeFi. So I know, like, right in the past, BTC guys would hold, let's say, their BTC with some of the lending and borrowing platforms that are centralized. But now that they're seeing all this growth that's happening in DeFi, that's offering, quite a bit of, juicy yields. They're going to start allocating a small portion slowly to that sector. So yeah, I mean, there's really not much, right, that you could do. But now we do have this new utility that's rolling out, and I think a lot of the players are going to be, taking advantage of it. So
I'm going to get to this comment by Scott here. He says, think of the protocol that dips into the liquidity of Uniswap, SushiSwap, Box, BNB, Bancor, everything else. 10 years from now, you'll be able to spend crypto effortlessly. So I want to kind of talk about that comment with the comment you made, where as things get a little bit more available to the broader public and in the bigger institutions, the bigger players, that the yield isn't there. Is interoperability going to be a death to kind of these early protocols where you can kind of chase these really 100x returns and things like that?
yeah, I mean, I think the rates will normalize and everything will normalize with having these automated systems, right, that are set up. What it's doing is essentially trying to bring the industry to the equilibrium faster, right? Because otherwise we would have to do this manually arbitrage and switch things around. So it's doing it in an automated fashion. Eventually will evolve into something what, Scott mentioned in terms of having a bunch of these swap platforms and pools and so on available. And then I can even see those things becoming, big liquidity providers in DeFi that then will probably be ranked by some system in terms of points, like, all right, this platform takes in like majority of orders all the time, doesn't have any restrictions, liquidity is there for X amount of time already. They've been sitting on, let's say, billions of locked liquidity for X amount of time, then means that they're going to get priority in terms of any type of order flow that's going to be going through, and market makers make money on that, right? So as soon as that system is self-evolving in that way, where eventually there will be a scoring system, and eventually it will become a very efficient and effortless, like Scott mentioned, where in the background, well, let's say somebody in retail would be making trades, not even knowing that there's like 10 different liquidity provider platforms that this system goes through and finds the best rate, right? So like, and that's the stuff that's very exciting.
Definitely. This is a good conversation, man. I think we've had a lot of good innovation happening on the DeFi front, and it kind of leads to these broad discussions on interoperability that we wouldn't have had in a bear market. So, or at least they wouldn't be as exciting. So we've got Blum in the chat. He says whale. So it looks like we have a whale community member in the chat. Good to see you, man. You guys, if you're holding whale, you're doing a good job. Whale is absolutely. There's nobody there's not many communities that are doing it as much as Whale is. I know it's kind of cast to the side a little bit because it's not a genuine, I wouldn't even call it a project, because it's more of a social token experiment, right? It's not like your typical situation where you have a token that's associated with a platform or a protocol. It's a token associated with a community, which is really cool because we're doing the same thing, and it's great to see Whale have as much success. I think I got to pull up CoinGecko here. Let me see what Whale is at right now. As far as total market cap, it's absolutely astonishing. I mean, Whale is in front. It's 224 on market cap. So, I mean, just blowing by like larger protocols and platforms as a social currency token. So, it looks like market cap is 30 mil right now. So, good Lord, that's looking good. 30 days, 300%. Growth over there. So yeah, congrats to all the Whale community, man. If you don't know about Whale, hopefully we'll be able to collaborate with them in that community shortly. That's something that we're working on the back end with Lads. So guys, 30 of you in the chat. We hit 42 last week. If we hit 42 again, no, we need to have 43. If we hit the all-time high, everybody's getting Lads. Fire up the. I always make. I don't know how many times I can make that joke. But fire up the bots and all
The
all
click
the
farms.
Yeah, please do. But yeah, if we hit 43, we will definitely get that LADS airdrop. The rest of the LADS distribution is happening today. I'll drop again tryroll.com. If you're not set up with a wallet, that's actually not going to work.
If we get banned by YouTube for these views gaming, I'm gonna blame it on UQ.
You're the one that has the restricted episode right now, man.
I know, right? Yeah.
You're not one to be throwing stones, all right? No, all right, so guys, we've got DeFi, we've got NFTs, and then we've got EOS. Actually, we're going to hit EOS first, obviously, by the column there. Everything EOS had a huge interview with Dan Larimer. That was an amazing interview. They had a live town hall setting afterwards, and I actually joined, and they were very accommodating. So shout out to Cheney and shout out to Zach Gall. That was really cool for them to do that live town hall. I always love kind of the impromptu stuff by Gall. I think he's like the funniest dude when it comes to impromptu stuff that I know. But the Dan Larimer interview shed some light on a good amount of things, and obviously it's a lot to go through. So I'll definitely have some notes pulled up here. The biggest thing that I noted from that interview, other than them not being able to pry kind of these cloud providers, I think there's there's a rumor going around that a large cloud provider is going to join on as a block producer. They tried initially in the interview to get him to kind of give us some answers there.
AWS.
AWS, Google, like there's some things going on where those announcements hopefully will be coming shortly. For the EOS community, that would be huge. I know block producers and the stigma around the cartel is definitely a big one for EOS right now as it comes to that. But I guess I don't know how to touch on everything because it was a three. I jumped into that AMA and they asked me what I thought about the interview. It was funny. They were asking everyone what they thought about the interview, and everyone was like, "Well, I didn't really catch it." Not everyone was able to stay the full 2.5 hours, and it was pretty interesting. So, I guess my main topic that I would like to cover here is the EOS Foundation and the idea that most of these protocols and most of these kind of networks and communities surrounding them is some foundation that has some sort of funds that can then fund the community, right? And these people, are able to get dev grant funding, kind of like in the same idea that we dropped on earlier with Binance. That was one of the questions that Gall raised, right? What is going on with the EOS Foundation? Is it Block One? Are Block One going to step in and have this EOS Foundation? Who's going to step forward and kind of lead this movement to fund projects, lead governance, and all these different things? If it's not Block One, and obviously Dan has done his best. Block One has done their best to separate themselves from the EOS protocol. I think for regulation concerns and things like that. But Dan's answer was interesting to me because it led me to believe, and I'm kind of bearish on the answer that he gave, because it led me to believe that he cares more about perfecting the governance. Because when they asked him about it, he was basically saying, who's going to run that? How are we going to do that? And all these different things. And I think they're obviously ideating in the background about this stuff, but the fact that he felt that the idea needs to be perfected before it's implemented in practice is a little bit bearish to me. I think if I had my way of doing it, and certainly like the question revolved around a lot of money being involved in this governance, right? A lot of like hundreds of millions, maybe, millions of dollars that are now used by the EOS Foundation to fund different EOS projects. Certainly the governance needs to be figured out. Don't get me wrong, but why not start the EOS Foundation with 50K? 10K, work on the practices and all of these different processes in live time, other than doing the auto approach of I need to work 2 years to perfect this governance idea. That was big to me. So basically Dan's answer to Gall's question about the EOS Foundation was until it's quote unquote, and he didn't say perfected, but that's what he gave it. Until we figure it out, we're not going to put it in practice, and that's kind of bearish for me. I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat about what Dan's answer to that EOS Foundation? The EOS Foundation would be huge, right? A worker proposal system that was initially supposed to fund products and projects in the space. That's not there. And to go along with that, the EOS price was mentioned, which I'll get to in a second. But what did you think about just that microcosm issue right there?
Yeah. I mean, I feel your side, right? Is because in crypto, it's like you can try to make things perfect for a while, but then like when you release it, you find out there's like many different issues.
Hmm.
And in general, we've seen many different struggles, right? In setting up DAOs and governance and all that stuff. Where it's
Hmm.
like it sounds good on paper, but in practice, there's still so many projects that are struggling with the balance there. So um, I think he's referring to mainly just like, hey, listen, there hasn't been there. I think they're relying on maybe other systems doing it, right? So
Hmm.
they're observing that market and they're waiting to see who's going to get as close as possible, so they can probably take that info and then implement it into EOS Foundation. But I can see why some of the EOS guys might be getting frustrated that it's not happening as fast as it could be. um it was very interesting. I popped into that interview for just a minute because I was getting prepared for the desk, and I've never seen Gull smile so hard.
Yeah, he was a little
He was
starstruck,
loving it. He was
100%
loving
starstruck.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, the other point that Scott just pointed out, because were a ton of topics. Again, I think this episode lasted 2.5 hours. It looks like Scott's saying I would have the Bitcoin news be the top of my list of best insider information he could give. Bitcoin has a magic about it that will bring so much value to EOS in the world. So I think what the idea here is in the discussion around Bitcoin being wrapped on EOS. And so Block One's potential, Bitcoin stack might be in play here. I know EOS Exchange, EOS Finex, all of these ideas of bringing Bitcoin liquidity onto the EOS mainnet is huge, and I think that's what was discussed, there. So correct me if I'm wrong. Wrap Bitcoin and having the governance around the multi-signatures and things like that. That's going to be good for the EOS mainnet, but we will see. I would love, Scott, if you could drop more about what they talked about as far as wrapped Bitcoin goes. That would really help us out in our discussion. The only other point that Cheney was making at the end of the episode was the idea of EOS price, and there's a negative community sentiment around Block One in the fact that they made their money already. Right? Mm-hmm. They made a ton of money through the EOS crowd sale. There's always this parroted kind of thought that Block One has, that the community needs to lead most of this stuff. And my thoughts on whether the community should lead or there should be a front man and things like that. But so I'm glad Dan has come back in that sense. But the idea that the EOS price doesn't matter, and that was kind of the point that Dan made, right? Like we're looking 5 years in the future.
It used to matter to them.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. And the idea that what we've seen in DeFi and Ethereum right now, especially around Wi-Fi, and I made this point on that town hall, was that you've been able to create via token appreciation, right? Like literal ecosystem overnight. I mean, Wi-Fi is providing like 6-figure salaried jobs on the token alone because of the token appreciation. Now I know that's a unicorn to throw out. The damn token is worth what, $40,000 at this point. I know.
I stopped keeping up with it.
Yeah,
because
it triggers
more
you.
and more salty.
Yeah. But token price can do something, and Cheney mentioned this afterwards in the town hall meeting. Token price was allowing him to do what he was doing when it was sitting around $8 and still be at a profit with CPU emergency. There's a lot of people in the industry that were counting on the EOS token price being at a certain price, and I think we're idealists in a certain way. I'm not just chasing the token price here, but it does help to have EOS at $10 for the development of the ecosystem. It goes along with what Ryan Selkis was saying with missionaries and mercenaries, right? Wi-Fi has been able to create missionaries, synthetics, lend, link. All of these different products, because of the token appreciation, have been able to create missionaries, people that they've, in some cases, millions of dollars have been gained from people who were initially community members, but eventually missionaries, because now they're millionaires and they want to give back to what gave them that opportunity, essentially. So I know that's kind of pie in the sky, but for Dan to kind of dismiss EOS price, I think is a little bit misguided. I think they should care more about that specific argument. I think they kind of look at it as like the short term approach, right? Like the guy comes in and asks win exchange and wastes 30 seconds of the dev's time, right? But I think it is a big player, man. If you saw EOS price appreciation, you would see. I gave the example that Gall could probably do an Everything EOS podcast every day. You know, and that would be good for EOS if Gall could do that every day. I know we only get one like once a month now, and that's just based on real life. So that was my big takeaway there too. I wish Block One would care more about I guess the community members in the sense of token price and kind of understand that kind of is a flywheel effect on itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And from a block producer's perspective, now that there's so many tools available, as they collect that EOS as rewards, they don't necessarily need to dump EOS. They can hedge that risk, by shorting EOS and futures and so on. But it'll be really interesting to see if the DeFi space does start building out on EOS, what kind of effect it's going to have on the price, similar to some of the stuff that we see in terms of locking up some of that supply, right? And driving demand. So if there's going to be big rates available and DeFi space continues to flourish on EOS, then we should be able to see similar type of effects on the token prices we see like BNB or whatnot, right? So that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I feel you, man. It's that's not really what you want to hear. Right?
Yeah, and it's not even from a bag holder's perspective, right? Like I just see what's happening on Ethereum, and it just a lot of different protocols are just able to flourish out of nowhere, randomly almost, because of the community that they've created, the missionaries they've created that go out and do that work. So you're not creating any missionaries when you say, hey, screw off, we're in this for the 5 to 10 year timeline. So yeah, guys, we have some more comments down that are talking about what Dan was talking about with Bitcoin. I think Pickle's in the chat. Good to see Crypto Pickle always, man. Great to have you in here. He said, I always come in late. Guess I should just quit my job. Yeah, 100%, man. EOS at $100, you can quit. I know you're in DApp too, so maybe if DApp pumps again, we'll see it. So Crypto Pickle saying, I think Dan hates fiat so much he doesn't care about the EOS USD because when the USD fails, it won't matter. So that certainly is an interesting take on Dan Larimer's thoughts there. Let's see. Scott's saying, as far as the foundation, why don't we, the community, come together and raise $50K for the EOS Foundation? Lads leading the charge.
Boom.
Interesting thought there. You go. Interesting thought. He mentioned a trustless solution to posting BTC headers to EOS. I'm not too technical if that makes sense. It would allow the new way to wrap BTC. I can look more into it for the lads. Yes, please do drop that in the telly. Would love to hear more about that. But overall, great to see Dan kind of come out and be on the Everything EOS interview for as long as he did, man. I know it was a good thing for the community. That episode has like 5,000 views already, so good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to the Everything EOS guys for getting that done. That was awesome.
Yeah. We had a quick announcement. I'm going to drop the link here. I've already dropped it a couple times, but since we're on it right now, it looks like a box competitor is kind of popping up here, a swap competitor, AMM competitor on EOS called DolphinSwap. It's by the same team that created Diamond, that liquidity pool, and it looks like it's. We don't have much information. There's no timeline, but that kind of just dropped right before we even pressed live. So we'll look into it later. We'll obviously be talking about it in lads, but it's good to see more DeFi being brought out. We'll see exactly what the hell goes on. But with this, and it'll be interesting to see how DMD is involved, because DMD, the team that is putting on this Dolphin swap is actually the team behind Diamond. So I'm sure that DMD governance token will somehow be involved.
Interesting.
So that's about it for EOS, guys. If you want to, talk more EOS, certainly drop it in the chat there, and we'll get to it. But other than that, we're moving on to DeFi, and then we're hitting NFTs, and then we're out.
Boom. Yeah, it feels like we can't wait to get to DeFi, and we cover like half of the DeFi news like throughout each section that we cover. So by the time I get to the DeFi, there's probably only 2 points left. But that that's cool. Let's hop into it. So the first thing, obviously, we talked about this wrap BTC, right? That's coming in onto the Ethereum network, and that's being utilized. I already kind of covered that. That a lot of these whales that are looking to deploy their BTC, maybe to try DeFi and diversify between CeFi and DeFi, they're doing that right now. They're saying that closing in on a 1 billion in value, as far as wrap BTC and Rent BTC that's being moved basically right now. So that's a good thing for the industry, obviously, because BTC is getting utilized more without just sitting on the sidelines, and they're taking advantage of the yields that are available there. So we've seen obviously CZ post that wrap BTC where you can trade on that platform. Huobi is becoming a big player in there as well. The listing wrap BTC and so on. So all of those exchanges are seeing the opportunity to see that this is going to continue to happen, and they're basically rolling out the tools to accommodate those guys that are sitting on BTC want to play in the DeFi game with their holdings. So overall, that's pretty good. Moving forward with some of the other DeFi stuff. So Crypto Pickle is in the house. I'm not sure if you're the one who created the Pickle Finance, but basically this is Pickle Finance that came out. It was very interesting. The crypto community, I love it. It comes out with so many memes and different names for the new platforms. It just always impresses me. But the Pickle Finance, besides its funny name, it actually does have an interesting functionality where it's basically designed to use when the peg of stablecoins becomes offset. So for example, if you have big demand for USDC or drop off in demand in USDC, the peg of $1 per one USDC essentially gets skewed to one side or the other. And we've seen that in other pegs as well, like USDT obviously does that, and other stablecoins. So there's still that kind of I want to say inefficiency a little bit in there, where it does require it does attract arbs that people that chase arbitrage in the system, right? They hop in and they're trying to bring that peg back to $1 per each stable coin. But Pickle Finance is doing that in a way of like rewarding with Pickle basically tokens when you lock in your stablecoin in their platform, and then their system automatically basically reshuffles to keep keep the peg of those stablecoins at whatever it should be. They talk about specifically about because of the DeFi stuff that's going on, there has been quite a bit more in fluctuation in terms of off peg for these stable coins. So with Pickle Finance, they're trying to service that sector and keep the stable dollar stable basically in that sort of thing. So that was pretty cool. We'll see how that's going to roll out, but that definitely does have a function in the market, so we'll see how that's going to work out. Yearn is launching something very interesting, so they're moving forward right there. They got listed on Coinbase Pro today, I believe. So that team continues to be successful. They've unveiled the StableCredit, which is going to be something very interesting. It's like a combination of Maker and Uniswap. It's, from what I understand, it gives you the ability, let's say you have USDC, and then instead of getting, let's say, the other leg of the token, like let's say ETH, right? So you have USDC and ETH, and then you put it in a pool and then you farm, right, and provide liquidity. Instead of having both legs of that, you can have just USDC and then use that USDC as the collateral to take out a loan to cover the other leg of that pool. which essentially will, help you farm those things. So
The first comment on this Wiren Twitter post right here, Chris Bleck, who's actually a popular guy within the Twitter community. I've read this 3 times and still don't fully get it. Someone else, please. So yeah, if you understand what's going on with this, so that's the meme going around. So if you had to break this down in like a TLDR, what essentially is this offering people to do?
Yeah, it's an easier way to utilize. It's like a next evolution, right? Of we see automated market making, right, and the way it's designed now. There's many different experiments starting to roll out, which makes that process even better and better and better, right? And that's one of the functions that that they're trying to roll out, which is StableCredit, which is basically gives you the ability to basically expand on that side of automated market making, but also not necessarily hold both of the legs, meaning that you have USDC and let's say ETH. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. You can just hold the USDC and then perhaps use that as a collateral to take out a loan for the other leg. So it's going to be interesting to see. And like I mentioned, it's like it has certain aspects of the Maker and Uniswap on there. So again, these guys are realizing that, hey, certain processes can be done better and better and better, and this is the market evolving itself slowly to provide those functions.
Gotcha.
So
perfect, man. All right, we got about 23 of you guys in the chat. We're coming up to the end of the episode here, but we got to hit NFTs. Dima, did you have anything for DeFi before we moved on, man?
No, I think that's a wrap as far as the DeFi go.
Yeah, we had to take Ethereum off of this column sheet too, because literally most of DeFi, what we're talking about, is Ethereum. So I feel you when you say that we're talking DeFi pretty much the whole episode, man. So guys, as we come up to the end of the episode, let us know anything we missed. Hit us in the chat. Obviously, if you're not within the Lads community right now, that Telegram link is going to be in the description. You can get involved. Every Layer1Live episode, man, you guys are obviously providing us crazy content. Like, it would be really boring if that chat feed to our right but your left or our left but your right was definitely empty. So all the chats you guys are doing, it really helps us out, man. It definitely helps us grow as well. So all right, I've got NFTs. I got a really cool project that I want to get to, but I know all the way back at the beginning of the episode, someone, I think it was Danny, was asking about the sandbox sale. So this sandbox sale is happening tomorrow. One of the most important things to know about the sandbox sale is that and its effect on sand specifically is going to be the reason that sand is going to be the only exclusive way to buy these land tokens. So up to this point, you've been able to buy land with ETH, obviously. So this is going to be the first time that these land parcels are going to be open via sand tokens only. So there's a 10% discount. There's obviously going to be 4 days and 4 waves here, and then they're going to have premium assets on these land tokens. So I know early in the land sales that Layer 1 got in, and there's different islands that you can see. I might be able to pull up the sandbox sale right now. Early on, they didn't offer all of these incentives. I think what they're trying to do here is incentivize people to still take part, even though most of the people that know about sand are already in. So we're definitely interested. Oh, it looks like sandbox.game changed their intro. It looks like there's...
Oh.
You used to come here and be able to see the map. It looks like there's a pre-registration process now. So a little bit different. But anyways, the sandbox land, we'll see if it sells out. Literally every single sandbox sale up to this point has completely sold out. The land to get is going to be these premium lands. And those are going to be specifically centered around what looks like, and then I'll kind of, I know you can't see it all the way, guys, but they do have these transportation systems, and it looks like these yellow premium lands are going to be centered around these premium or these destination systems. So that's going to be kind of the way to get from sandbox parcel to another side of the sandbox universe or sandbox metaverse. You can see it here. So what you'll probably see if you do take part in this sale, you'll connect to your Ethereum wallet, your MetaMask. You'll have the sand token. Likely you'll be having to pay a lot in gas fees based on what's going on here. But most of these will fill up and most of those premium land assets will fill up as the sale goes live. So that'll be the situation. Hopefully, if you set the gas fees to a certain amount, you will likely or possibly get into one of these land estates. So that's pretty much the deal with the land pre-sales. You'll also, on top of it being in a certain location, you obviously get those premium assets as well. So I think they were mentioning the Care Bear IP, that you might end up getting those premium assets if you get into that premium land setup. Otherwise, there's other lands to be bought up that aren't premium that you'll likely have more access to if you decide. It is a race though. They have the countdown, goes to 0. You have to start, and if you don't get it, you're going to get a failed transaction. Then that shit starts flowing or filling up. So,
didn't Binance get into Sandbox?
Yes. So Binance recently announced that they were buying up lands, and they did buy up the lands, and they're the biggest holder of. I know we covered this on NFT Live last week. So Binance is going to offer, I believe, a good solid chunk of what they bought up. They're going to offer to creators. If someone's creating something really cool, they're going to have auctions and things like that to kind of allow these people to create. I'm sure they'll have their own Binance exchange kind of interface. Like
that would be cool.
They'll definitely have that in the world. So a lot of cool things being built up on Sandbox. Sandbox has been killing it since day one. So good to see. All right, this is the story I wanted to get to possibly for the whole episode. So there's kind of a funny backstory here that Dimitri heard about this before I did. I'm gonna unlock my MetaMask wallet here so that you can see the interface.
Impossible.
So Dimitri heard about this a little bit before me. But what you had was essentially a meme coin in the light of Doge almost. You had a meme coin kind of take on its own life, and actually the developer behind the product actually built out all of these services for it. Essentially what you have here, guys, is NFT yield farming. I'm going to pull it up right now. So you got meme, the token. And what you're able to do is stake the meme in the same way that you're able to kind of farm on these different DeFi protocols. But what you're farming by staking meme is actually the ability to get some of these collectibles. And that was possibly the coolest thing about this whole project, right? You had the idea that it was just a random meme coin, but the really cool part about this is it allows, almost in that Nifty Gateway, like think about Nifty Gateway and the drops that they do every week. Think of the Nifty Gateway drops as only being available to the most hardcore users on Nifty Gateway. That's essentially what's going to happen here. And if they do this right, it has a bunch of product market fit, because what you do have is collectibles that people are interested in. These are, and you can see some of the products here. But if you roll out in the same way of Nifty Gateway, where you have a very exclusive amount of NFTs that look really dope, obviously, but also are reputable within the industry. I think some of these are being sold on OpenSea. Let me see if I can pull this up. So it looks like last sold for an 1.25 ETH. So these are being sold on OpenSea after they're being farmed by the people who were initial Genesis stakers on meme. So really cool. I know I was kind of all over in describing that, but what you have here again is the ability to only offer NFTs to people who are staked in that platform, which I think is a cool evolution. I think if Nifty Gateway kind of took this and ran with it, they would get some traction as well on their platform. But go ahead.
I definitely did not see this coming, right? Like when I first found out about Don't Buy Meme, it was pretty funny. I went straight to the website and it says don't farm it, don't buy it, and then you click on those buttons, it takes you straight to like Uniswap or whatnot, right? So it's an interesting reverse psychology, right? That experiment. But that kind of reminded me back in the day when there was an ICO that was like pretty much like saying don't like send ETH like to this ICO or whatnot, right? And the guy just went on describing, listen, like all the funds that I'm gonna gather, I'm gonna be used for vacation. I'm not gonna build anything. This is straight up like you sending me ETH and I'm bouncing. And he ended up like collecting like 200 G's of that, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. But I thought it was kind of like this, right? So I thought it was gonna, it was just kind of meaning, right? It was gonna die, right? But it looks like there's actual functionality on this. And, wow, like I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, definitely. I think again, there's like a whole backstory to this. The guy created the token, then actually created the product afterwards, after he saw there was interest. So again, let me take you through the process here. You have to obviously acquire meme by buying it on Uniswap, not investment advice. But once you have meme, you can actually stake it. And I actually didn't get to staking this morning because the gas fees were absolutely abysmal this morning. I don't know if you caught that. But you eventually earn their platform currency, which I don't even think it has. I don't think pineapples have any value whatsoever. They allow you to actually buy, basically claim the actual tokens themselves. So, for example, if I stake the maximum of 5 per day, I could get a certain amount of pineapples and then just get this little meme grill right here. And that's really cool in a lot of different factors, mainly around the idea of offering collectibles only to people who are super staked in the platform. And what I mean by super staked is that you're a super user. I remember talking with Yatsui from Animoca Brands and being able to actually have people who are have a stake in the game, skin in the game, and offering it to those people only, as opposed to the public in general. That's going to be the really cool part that you'll see out of this. You'll see more NFT platforms do this, where you have to stake their specific token to get a specific drop. Rari's 100% an example. Rari is going to take their token, Rari, and say, you have to stake the amount to get whatever collectible they're releasing that week. It makes too much sense. Why not do that? So that this mechanic here, this DeFi yield mechanic, is going to make its way into NFTs. And this looks like one of the first. So interesting.
Yeah, I mean, locking up that token and then watch that token rise in value because of the circulating supply decreasing. It's kind of the similar type of stuff that I've talked about in DeFi, which is interesting. They're catching on. They're starting to do that stuff.
Yeah, DeFi and NFTs. I know Ghost Token. We've talked about Avagachi here on the channel. You asked Stanny about Avagachi, and that. That's another one. You have DeFi and NFTs kind of rubbing up against each other and kind of creating this really cool synergy. So yeah, really cool. I mean, I'm gonna once this damn gas goes down, I'm gonna stake my memes and I'm gonna see what I can do as far as I know. That sounds.
Oh man, how do we get here?
Why you like this?
Yeah, why you like this?
Yeah, well, we'll see, man. But I'm definitely going to see what I can do with the pineapples, see if they have any. Obviously, they have resale value. They're being sold on OpenSea. The fact that they're integrated into OpenSea, I think you can even there's another integration with OpenSea that has me bullish on the team as well. If they can get it done with OpenSea, then that's a really cool feature there. So. Yeah, man, this is a really cool project. I'm gonna keep tabs on it. Definitely wanted to get your guys' attention on NFT farming. I think that's a really cool feature. What else do I have? Sandbox now on OpenSea, and I've got Rarible landing funding. So we can pull up this. Yes, Kieran's laughing at us. Why you like this, man? Why you like this? No. Sand from the Sandbox now on OpenSea. Okay, yeah. So obviously Sand token is going to be available for purchasing different assets now on OpenSea. So obviously you can purchase with ETH at this point on OpenSea, but you can actually purchase with Sand on OpenSea now. So I thought that was a pretty big story to get to you guys. And then Rarible. Good Lord. Rarible has had an absolute. We talked about this on NFT Live, so I'm not going to touch on it too much here. But other than securing this funding, which we'll go through right now, CoinFund has basically invested an undisclosed amount into Rarible. Obviously, that's going to pump the token price a little bit, hearing about securing funding for that project. But the Rari token has absolutely been a hot topic in the NFT industry right now. I think Rarible's working with Andre. That's another kind of conspiracy.
Well, this thing just bumped.
Yeah, yeah. It's cool to see NFT tokens proliferate as well. Like to see people who. That's the coolest thing about NFTs is that you have users who aren't crypto users or are recent crypto users. Ronan's a good example. Ronan's a great example. Ronan came to us and is now co-hosting NFT Live. He came from the collectible side, not an investor via crypto at all. So he's getting his first sight at some of these tokens. It's cool to see those non-crypto users be like, wait, I can earn a token and then it raises in price, and I can do these different things like govern, a platform with the tokens. It's just really cool to see with fresh eyes, and NFT users have these fresh eyes to view it with. So a lot of news surrounding Rari the past week. Obviously, Andre, I think they're integrating Wi-Fi's insurance onto NFT or Rarible. So I'll pull this up here if I can. But yeah, there's a lot of, there was a comment earlier as well, and there's a lot of speculation that NFTs could take many forms, right? We've talked about REITs, we've talked about certifications, we've talked about maybe car ownership. I think was thrown out on the comment. Like, there are so many different ways that you can certify things with unique digital assets like NFTs that they're going to be implemented shortly, and I think that's why you see kind of Andre get involved with NFT insurance or Wi-Fi insurance being NFT. It's all very complex, but at the same time, if you can get past that initial wave of like, wait, this is way too complex, NFTs will essentially represent a lot of the things that you see today that are in the form of certificates, right? Like car registration could be an NFT. Your home ownership could be an NFT. Insurance, like Andre's doing, could be an NFT, and that's kind of the primer there, I guess you could say.
The realm of possibilities.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, NFTs have a huge. I think they're being overshadowed right now. Obviously, they're being hurt by DeFi as well. You're not able to interact. I wasn't able to stake memes because I don't think I could see the same return I would do with DeFi. But they're definitely. We're at 2 hours and 10 minutes right now, so this is itself a long episode. So we're not going to go that much longer, guys. We did have a question about Dodo. So Dodo, obviously, that AMM that got funding from Framework. Have you heard anything about Dodo at all? I know I've been monitoring that Telegram group, but nothing from my end.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have anything at the moment, but it's something we can look into for next time. Yeah,
what we'll do, Danny, is I know you're in the Telegram chat as well, but for people interested in Dodo, that's definitely going to be one of the bigger AMMs here to come out fairly shortly, I believe. But they were backed by Framework, so it's one to keep tabs on. But next Layer1Live, what we'll do is we'll give a Dodo update in full, and we'll make sure to write that down for you. So, longest Layer1Live interview or Layer1Live episode. For those Kieran's in here from first to last, man. So for all of you guys that are here, I think, what do we have at this rate? We have 23 of you guys in the chat. For everyone that was here the whole time, we appreciate you so much, man. You guys make this channel. You really do. We've seen a lot of kick up in stat traffic and a lot of different areas and metrics. And you guys are, we couldn't be, where we are right now without your initial support. So you guys are killing it, man. We can't wait to give more value to the Lads community, Lads token, yada, yada, yada. Can't wait for all of that stuff, man. And we appreciate your guys' support so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at your Doge in the background, he's staring out the window. He's probably wants to go outside and play in this beautiful weather.
100%, man. He's going out right after this. And I'm going to get to that Lads distribution today, guys, as well. So all good things coming. We've got a ton of different updates that we'll get to the Lads community. If you're not already in Lads, get into that Telegram link. But other than that, guys, we appreciate you showing up. Thank you for stopping by. And what is it?
Till next time.
Till next time.
Teal.